Welcome to the Biz Gone Social podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are on the Biz Gone Social podcast, and I am so glad to be here. And my promise to you, as always, I want to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine that's going to energize your business and help you stay social. Because after all, don't you want to be the business that everyone's talking about? I know I do. And welcome, Vicki.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. It's so good to be on your Biz Gone Social.
So tell me a little bit about your business, what you do, and who you serve.
So my business is I'm a speaker, a trainer, a coach, and the host of the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. So as you might wonder or guess, my coaching and training is in public speaking and leadership, leading with your heart, your head, and your hands. And I throw in the mix just because I think it's so important that we live better is I have an anti-aging and wellness business. So if the way you look or the way you feel is keeping you from doing what you need to do, I got solutions for you.
Yeah, that a lot of stuff there, but I'm going to focus on one thing because I feel like it's so important in today's world, especially if you're on the online world, in the video world.
Yeah.
Is what are some tips that you could share with my audience about improving their video?
So, it's really interesting. I cover a lot of folks, talk with a lot of folks, and they have a great message. And yet, whenever they get on camera, their lighting is so poor that they're basically in the dark. It's like hey, let me tell you about my product. Let's go over here into the corner where it's dark and try to get our message across. Or they have so much light and it's so bright that now that there's so much reflection that people kind of look away and are focusing on the fact that the lighting's either too poor or too bright and not on their message. So those are the first thing is, what is your lighting like? The second thing is your positioning. I can't tell you how many people that whenever we first started in the time of COVID, especially, having so much video and people were using their laptop or their phone and they literally were looking down, talking to you. And it's like, I need to connect with your eyes, or I have looked up too many people's noses because their laptop especially is at a position where it's just getting from down below. And if you're a female, we do not need anything from below because it gives us a couple of chins that we don't really want. So that's a second thing. Where are you positioned? Are you in the center? If you divide your screen into three, you want your top third to be your eyes, second third to be about your mouth, and then the third should allow your torso in so that you can have your gestures emphasize your words naturally. So that's your positioning. So you have your lighting, your positioning. The next thing is the sound. And when you start out, it's okay to use earphones, the kinds you stick in your ears that are connected to your PC or your laptop. That's fine. The sound is great. I would rather you do that than nothing, because if you just use your laptop's sound system on its own, too many distracting things go on. It's poor quality. You don't want to do that. So use that. As you see, I have earbuds in. So I found that because I stand a lot whenever I do my podcast or speak, I can't move around if I'm connected, tethered to the computer. So I switched to earbuds. And so you want to be able to hear your audience, but also microphone. So earbuds are okay, or tethered earphones are okay. But if you really are getting serious, get a good microphone. And so I have a Samsung. It's a Samsung, S-O-N, and it's fabulous. It doesn't cost a lot, and it's upgradable that it can take you to a more advanced microphone. So that would be the sound piece. And then the the final thing, whenever I talked about lighting, I forgot the one thing that we had talked about early is you want to make sure the lighting is in front of you, of your screen. So sort of centered or to the side. But a lot of times people will say, well, I'll sit in front of a mirror. And I don't know about you, but the sun goes in and out. And so you'll be good and then you won't be good and you can't control it. So my suggestion is if you could be in a room where at least the walls on each side of you directly across from you are just walls and not windows, and use this, the lighting of the ring light. And I have a tri light above me. And then you see in the background, I do have a light on, but it's far enough back that my camera is not pulling in, trying to focus on that light as much, because if it does that, then that's when you get the blur because it's brightening up things. So camera is the next and final thing. And the camera, you can use the camera on your phone. There are apps that you can use. The Apple and Android both have apps that you can have as your camera, or if you use your laptop, the newer laptops have pretty good cameras. But my ideal thing is to get to an external camera that is, you can get a stand for them that raises it. If you put it just at the top of your laptop or your PC, you tend to have it that you're looking up all the time, as opposed to if you get a stand for it that's telescoped, then you can adjust it to the center or thereabouts the center of your screen. So those are some tips.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm not using it now, but I had gotten this external camera, and it was because a friend of mine had it, and it, like, everything looked so clear and it was so nice. Then I got it and it worked for about 5 weeks and then it died. And so I'm like on my 4th external camera right now. I'm using my laptop's camera.
Yeah, I have a Logitech, and I've had it now for 2.5 years. The camera quality is not changed at all. So,
which is funny because I've always had Logitechs for a lot of things, my mouse, my everything. And for me, they just don't last. So I guess I have bad luck.
You're tough on your camera.
Yeah, I don't know. But I did get this one camera. It's still working, but I'm not using it today. It has like a little light on it. And if you lower the light, it actually makes your face look really, really good. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, this Logitech version I have does that as well. It does have lights on it, and it does have that feature to soften your look. So,
yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
so,
and there's
I
was just going to say there's another camera that's available. It's a center cam that kind of goes. It's on a string basically, and it doesn't distort or distract you, impede you from seeing your screen behind you, as the Logitech does take up a little 2 or 3 inches of space that you can't see. So if you're trying to read your PowerPoint or see somebody that's right there, so that is another solution that you can do.
Yeah, do you recommend a lot of people use like a little script on their top? I mean, the thing is because I was always told that if you're talking to an audience, actually you look at the camera. And
yeah.
So it's like kind of hard to like read a script, look at the camera, read a script. And they have those things, they
do have teleprompters now.
But they don't work that great. Like what I try to do is if I'm speaking on Zoom, what I try to do is like I'll do a Post-it note and with the 3 points and put it like a little bit under my camera. And this way, it's like if you don't know what you're talking about by now, then you shouldn't be speaking. Yeah. So it's like, so I want to talk about something because we've talked about like, setup and things that we should have and how we should position ourselves. But, if you're running a virtual program or, you're on a platform where people are coming, how do you get your audience to engage? Because it's really hard because for me, like, for instance, I'm actually looking at, camera, laptop with nobody on it. So it's like, how do you get, when you don't see anybody, how do you get them to engage? What are some tips that you have on that?
So and even whenever I have a bunch of people on the screen, I sometimes find that distracting. I have a second monitor that I'll put the gallery view on that and kind of look off to the side to see sort of reactions. But I tend to just get comfortable, and it just takes practice, get comfortable talking to the cameras if they care, and just to imagine how people should be reacting to it. I remind people that if you are doing a presentation, a speech into a large audience, you can't see anybody. If you're in a theater style situation, you cannot see anybody. The lights are bright and you really cannot see their reaction. So you're basically talking to a black space. And so this is the similar thing that we find now in the Zoom situation or the online virtual situation is get comfortable talking to just the camera, and where you expect people to, you want people to react, then ask for the reaction. Give me a thumbs up or, how about an applause? Unmute yourself if you agree with that, and let's just have a chat. So you have to get in your dialogue, in that conversation you're creating with these people that you can't see. You have to create those reactions. And the more you do it, just like anything, the better it is. Think of it as, a conversation is like a tennis match, and you volley back and forth that ball, that tennis ball, and you send the information, but you don't want to be that talking head. You want to get kind of reactions. And so it feeds you to know that they understand, that they follow. So to say, hey, put a thumbs up or give me an applause, put in the chat if you agree, or put in the chat, if you want them to remember some of the words you're saying, ask them. So put that in the chat, that inspiration or that, whatever that word might be. It forces you to just get in that cadence, and then it becomes natural. But you have to keep doing it, because in the beginning, it isn't natural. You do feel awkward, and just know that everybody does, and just get over it and do it.
Now, earlier you had said that you have 3 businesses. How do you manage 3 businesses? And actually, you talk a lot about confidence and being a confident leader, a great leader. How are those 3 businesses all tied to confidence?
Sure. Absolutely. So I started out with my anti-aging and wellness business, and it's a business it's a multi-level marketing business that it is a very, very well-run business. They provide you with the website and all the social media marketing. So I'm not creating a lot of stuff for that. I just take the assets they have and put things out. And then I am the marketing person for it, in terms of I'm 65. Nobody knows that I'm 65 because all the products work. But it's a wellness piece is what is so tied to the business. As a speaker, as a trainer, as a coach, you have a lot of strain and stress on you. You have to be up, you have to be energized when you go on stage. And if you don't feel well, if you are not taking care of your body, not sleeping well, you're not going to be effective. You're not going to be impactful. And so if what's holding you back is how you look or you feel, that business will help you. That I have solutions for that. The public speaking is important because I run into so many great authors and business owners that have fabulous businesses, but are terrible at telling people about them. They don't tell a story. They might give you this bullet points of all the things that, your marketing points, but I need to know why I should care about that. I need you to tell me stories. I need to have testimonials. I need to see myself using or being that. And so I help you in that, how to be vulnerable, how to be impactful, how to be engaging. And then when you're more confident because you look good, you feel good, and you speak well, your leadership now, people start to follow you. People want to know how to be like you. And so it's naturally then my leadership style is leading with your heart, your head, and your hands. Leading with your heart is tying that empathy and the emotional intelligence. So again, how do I communicate that empathy and that emotional intelligence? but through stories. And then the leading with your head. So now I have you understanding that I understand how you feel and what motivates you and what your needs are. Now it's time for us to logically, strategically think together. How can we take you to the next level and use the different tools and tactics? And then finally, leading with your hands is that servant leadership. I find it more fulfilling for me to give. And it's why I do my podcast, to connect people. I think that that's so important, that you have that servant leadership mentality, that you give more than you expect back.
Yeah, I actually think it's the only way to lead, honestly.
Yeah. Yes.
So I love heart, head, and hands. I love that. Now, did you create that yourself, or did you hear it somewhere?
No. It's interesting. I heard it coined years ago, and then I followed Darren Hardy quite a lot, and I did the hero's journey and the business masterclass. All those things are fabulous, wonderful, and sprinkled in it were different aspects of that, where it wasn't called out that that's a leadership style, but each of the things that we learned and we talked about in those courses were how important emotional intelligence is, and the empathy. And really, it was just this heart-centered. Did you hear a lot of speakers and trainers out there talking about how they're heart-centered leaders or coaches? And I thought, well, from my experience, my years at working in corporate, where my manager track took me through many, many years where my mentors were all male. And I was not getting ahead because I was trying to run from a masculine energy and not utilizing the gifts that I have in my feminine energy. And so whenever I realized that if you blend those two male and female energies together, you really are leading with your heart and your head. And then I have been volunteering since I was 19 years old. And so I always think that you should be a servant leader, as we discussed. So it's funny, I used to work for UPS and retired from there. And in 2021, they came up with a slogan of the new way to be leaders. And it was leading with your head, your heart, and your hands. And I sent a message to the CEO because I was retired. What the heck? And I said, you got it backwards. But it seemed, because still male dominated, that they would think, well, you first have to be logical and leading with your head, and then you add emotion. And no, people are your biggest asset, as their founder told them. And so you lead with your heart. You get to know your biggest asset, your people. And from there, understanding what they need, then you together can work to align your core values with the mission and the vision of the company to make a difference.
I love that. This is the part of the show where we get real. And so what do you love about being in business for yourself?
Oh, what do I love? When I retired, I did not think that I would do anything but enjoy my grandbabies and be able to travel and go wherever. And after 2 years of doing that, I decided I have to give back. What I love is that I can share my experiences and my history with other women, because I do try to focus on women entrepreneurs, although I do have a large male audience, but I have to be able to give back. And so the podcast is that great way for me to connect people with solutions. So you don't have to have as frustrating of a journey as I had. Not to say that it's not going to be hard, not to say you aren't going to go on that roller coaster ride, because you will, but that's each time you stretch yourself, you get comfortable, it's time to stretch. And so for me, it's exciting to meet all you wonderful people that I have as guests on my podcast, or whenever I come and guest on others, to be able to speak with folks and be able to train. Today, I spent an hour with a group of people who I was training on the 6-week program I have on their journey to leadership, which centers on the heart, the head, and the hands.
I love that. So, everybody thinks we're cool because we have our own businesses. Some people see the glamour of it, but we both know that there are some struggles.
Yes.
And what would you say your biggest struggle is when trying to run a business in today's world?
I think the biggest struggle is something that everyone has, even the uber successful, is that you constantly are questioning whether or not you're good enough. That to survive, we have to make calls, we have to make visits, we have to put ourselves out there, and you will find every excuse in the world not to do it, because it's like, well, what if they say no, or if they reject me? And so I think that's the biggest struggle that we all have, and myself included.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know as much, like, if men go through it as much as women do, but I know that everybody I've talked to, especially women, they always talk about not feeling like they're enough. So that's kind of that's a good take. One piece of advice, universal, that would reach maybe 3 groups. It would be, a beginning entrepreneur, someone who's just starting out, and then maybe somebody who's seasoned, and someone who's thinking about starting a business. One universal piece of advice.
I would say don't shy away from saying yes. Because if you're that new person, you don't know anything, you question whether you should do it. You have people, especially if you're that first entrepreneur in a circle of friends or family, everybody's going to tell you you're crazy for doing what you want to do. So and then if you are been out there for a while, you as we talked about earlier, you got comfortable and you think, well, maybe, it's not broke, so why should I try to fix this, do something different? You just need to say yes to opportunities if they align with your core values. And then the final, if you're a seasoned person, again, you have been there, done that, have the t-shirt, and you might think, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and train other people to do this, and miss opportunities to grow, to continue to develop. And I will tell you, each new adventure I've gone on has been so fun and exciting and scary, but still it brought joy to your life. And I think people think, well, I have to make $1 million to be happy. But for me, the joy and the happiness comes as I go and as I develop and as I fail and I figure out how to not do that again. So I think that would be the advice, is not to be afraid to say yes.
I love that. You seem like you're a learner and you enjoy learning. Lastly, what was one book that was very pivotal in your life when it comes to running a business or leading?
I read a lot of books. So one of the ones that I thought was really good, and it's a recent book, it was one that actually my anti-aging business introduced us to, because again, it deals with the fact of women in business, the struggles that we have, the challenges that we have, and the need to have that self confidence. So it's called You're Kind of a Big Deal. And it is it's by Erin King. So it's You're Kind of a Big Deal. I don't know, my camera's in front of that. There we go. And she talks in a way that you almost think that you're like at a girl's afternoon or weekend, and you're just having some wine and carrying on conversation and just letting it all out there for everybody. So it's easy to understand, and it's about leveling up and unlocking your audacity, and it's being authentic And after each chapter, she gives you some homework kind of things to not only just read this book and set it aside, but read it and put to work what you just discovered. So that's the one that I think was really helpful. I started reading it in 2021. And so we still had a little bit of COVID going on. And so it was just somebody that was talking to me in a way that I could resonate with it. As I said, it was just like I was with a girlfriend who was giving me advice like, hey, I walked where you're walking now, and let me tell you how I navigated it.
I love that. I love that. And I kind of figured you were a reader. I could tell.
Yeah.
So if somebody today resonated with you, how would they get in touch with you?
So to get in touch with me, the easiest thing is to go to, you can email me at my name, vicki.nethling@gmail.com. So that's vicki.nethling@gmail.com. Or you can go to my website and check out all of the best way to get to know me too is to go to my podcast. And so I have over 200 out there on findyourleadershipconfidence.com. And you can see me on YouTube as well. I'm out on all social media. Victoria Ann Nethling is one social media, or Find Your Confidence is another. On Facebook and LinkedIn, I'm Victoria Nethling, and Instagram is @VNethling. So all the social media.
That's awesome. And do you have anything that you want to share with my audience?
Yes. So we talked a lot about how to be more impactful and engaging. And so I have a free little giveaway. It's a thing that you stick, and I even have it by my phone or by my desk. And it's a little handout, but it's 5 on-camera essentials to engage any audience. And so it just goes through the things that we talked about: the camera, the lighting, the sound, the placement, and maybe to avoid some of the distractions that you have, barking dogs, kids running through, for me, a cat walking across. But it's a nice little reminder before you get on camera, the things you should do. So it's a checklist.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for being on my podcast. And to everyone out there, until next week, I'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Gone Social podcast. Find us on Instagram @BizGoneSocial for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.